Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining in. Dr. Judy WTF here, Dr. Judy Rosenberg. I am the founder of the Be the Cause Mind Map System, director of the Psychological Healing Center. And today we're going to have a very poignant, relevant topic to many of you. The topic, parent alienation, children as pawns of revenge. And we're going to have a guest on, a parent of two children, one child 7 years old and the other 9 going on, I think 17, as he said. And his name is Adam, and he's going to be joining in. Actually, Adam is a fan of the show, and he's been asking me for so long to do this show. And we almost did it last time. It didn't make it, but this time we made it. We're going to talk about this, and it's still a call-in show, everybody, so I invite you to call in. Before we get started, I want to introduce to everyone the mind map system, so we're on the same map when we talk about breaking down this horrific system gone wrong, parent alienation, and all systems that create psychopathology with the emphasis on psycho. Our system's gone wrong, and in this case, the children are at the effect of this horrible system. Of course, the parents are also. So if you would be so kind as to put up the mind map, and I'll break it down very simply for everyone. So the first 3 panels are wounds of childhood and how they encode into our fiber of our being, our psyche. The next 3 panels are the chaos defenses and breakdowns that occur because of these woundings. And the last 3 panels are the shift out of the mess. So basically it's encode, decode, recode. That is the mind map healing system. We've got to take apart horrible systems gone wrong, take them down, and then rebuild and recode for health. So I want to read a little bit about parent alienation syndrome. A parent who exhibits signs of a personality disorder such as extreme narcissism, borderline personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder is most at risk to become an alienator. And that's from Forbes magazine. So there are different levels of parent alienation. I'm just going to cover some, and then we'll bring on Adam. So a mild case would be a case where the mild parent alienation is marked by a child who is resistant to visiting with the alienated parent, but enjoys spending time once they are alone together. So it's the resistance, but once they're there, they're pretty happy playing with the parent and engaging with the parent. Now, up a notch is moderate parent alienation syndrome, where the child strongly resists any contact with the alienated parent and maintains resentment and opposition during their time together. And of course, up one notch is another notch is severe parent alienation. The child may not only strongly resist contact, but may also run away or hide to avoid having the visit with the parents. So in a minute, I'm going to have Adam come on because we're going to talk about psychology, the court systems, and what's going on in the court systems to support the well-being of the parents and the well-being of the child, and how this is impacting children. So Adam, are you there? I hope we haven't lost him. Adam, are you there?
He just needs to unmute.
Okay, yeah, okay. Unmute yourself if you can. Okay, we'll give it a
minute. I'm sorry, I'm here.
Oh, that's okay. There you are. Okay. Yeah, we can't fail doing the show because you've been so long. So
welcome, Dr. Judy. Just thank you for everything.
You're so welcome. We've been in communication for a long time. Adam is a fan of the show. He's going to see if he can get his camera working. If not, we'll just talk and
Sure,
and then we'll leave room for people to call in and ask questions. And
sure.
Adam, unfortunately, you have firsthand experience with parent alienation. So maybe
Yeah.
talk a little bit about your marriage, the breakup, how the children were during the breakup, and let's start there.
Okay, thank you, Doctor. When I first started off, I started off as the scapegoat, as the child,
I'm
and
sorry, the what of the child?
I was the scapegoat. I was the scapegoat, you know, and
Okay.
uh, and I don't understand how sometimes God works, but I think He throws tests in your life, and this is one test that's I've had more luck treating sociopaths than I have with a narcissist, you know.
Okay. Okay. So I'll ask you questions, Adam. Maybe we can just kind of get a history.
Sure.
How long were you married for?
I was married for like 8 or 9 years. Yeah, we had a house together, and unfortunately, I have to say I had about 4 or 5 in my family, immediate family of narcissists, all different types. My ex-wife was the one I married, who was my father. I
So
know women say that,
okay, I just want to make sure I can hear you. Can you turn the volume up a little bit, maybe?
Sure, sure.
Okay, let's try that. So your wife was similar to your father, is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay, so what was your father like?
Well, growing up, he taught me, I mean, I get it, you make money, whatever, but he would tell me basically, you want to be a roofer or you want to be a doctor? And, I basically said, as long as you're a good person, that's, not just, do the right thing. I,
Okay. Okay,
you
so
know,
the choices were roofer, or what was the other choice?
doctor. So, I mean, red flag started from when I was a child.
Okay, all
Um,
right.
and he wasn't very slick about it because kids are very smart.
Yes, and so you had 8 years of a marriage. You seemingly did a what the Freud, which I call a copycat of an old blueprint, where you marry somebody who also exhibits narcissistic qualities. So, what were these qualities that you noticed, and when did
Yeah.
you notice it?
Okay, so basically, I work in the industry, and I'm not afraid to say, I won't go into details, but I have a good understanding from both ends. Uh, and not once in my career I've ever seen a person come in for narcissistic personality disorder.
Okay.
Uh, I've had better luck with a sociopath, on the same axis. But for me, I noticed my dad used to take me around to places that he bought, and you know, basically was a slumlord, and these were great values to see. Um, um, and our best times together were, uh, when he asked me to get marijuana for him or
Oh, that
introduce.
was your bedtime. Oh, okay.
Oh yeah, when I was young, I'm not ashamed to say, I was never an addict, but I had so much anger and rage inside me
Hmm.
about not having any control. I started off at 13 as a bulimic anorexic. Um,
Was your mother available?
she actually helped me because I, um, I was so obsessive with, I would eat this cookie that my mom would buy me in like um, huge boxes because in my mind, I believed that eating this cookie was okay. I guess I didn't know all the ingredients behind it, but I was a nutrition cookie at the store, maybe much like some of the ones they have today. But I ate it meticulously while watching two shows back to back. It would be Flintstones, and as a kid,
And
and then the next one was Leave It to Beaver or Jetsons. No,
okay, so I just wanted to start kind of connecting some dots here. And of course, we
yeah,
don't have a lot of time for a complete lifespan
Right,
analysis, right?
right,
You can see that your father was disconnected. He was
right.
filling his hole in the soul with
Yeah.
his marijuana, and then disconnected from you, and then
Well, yeah. Yeah, I'm
right.
sorry. Like it was much more than marijuana. I mean, he was all about everything was money, and that money, power, who you knew, and to me, they're a clown face and an empty suit. I mean, they are just they're leeches. They're emotional vampires, and all they want you is dead. Just like the 12 steps, just like your map program, just like breaking down the effect that you have to tell yourself, this is what I'm dealing with, and I'm not going to let it happen anymore. But you have to be like very slick about it.
So I talk a lot, as you know, about multi-generational. So here you had a father that was disconnected in many ways. He lacked empathy. He emphasized power, control, money. And, I've been doing a lot of shows lately
Yeah.
about power and
Oh,
control, which is
please.
right. I
Yeah.
think, right. You
No,
saw,
you always your program is so detailed and so much time to come up with such a beautiful system.
thank you very much.
No, it just really and for you, you also have been there for me when I really needed you. Um,
Very, very kind of you to acknowledge.
and that I find like that I even apply. Admitting what's right in front of me, what happened, and me, what I would do as a kid is take a stand and say, look, this is wrong, what you're
Mhm,
doing. You're
mhm,
going to get cheated out of this thing, and
mhm.
sure enough, he would. And sure enough, he was hanging out with bad people and never told me what kind of work he did. But I did go into the medical profession. I did the exact opposite. And I went through my trials and tribulations. I have no shame in saying that I took it out on myself because
Mhm,
uh,
mhm.
I felt so. And on top of it, I'm also a psychiatric trauma, nurse for almost 30 years, martial arts for 38 years. So I was taught not to feel emotion.
Okay, so let's just connect the dots on that, because as you can see from the perspective of the mind map, and you know it quite well,
Right,
that you
right.
were imploding. You were imploding,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so the cookies, shove the cookies into the hole in the soul, and implode with anger. And
yeah.
so you can only stuff it for so long before it either eats you alive, or it gets projected on other people. And so you're talking about how you replicated this, and you married a person who didn't have empathy, correct?
Yeah, well, that's where I was gonna just jump up next because the part that I learned with you and with every reading and every I believe you should just the first step for me was to just understand what this thing is because for it to be a cluster personality disorder and not be really recognized by the it's in the DSM out of DSM and like when do people get held accountable for their actions? Which one is worse, emotional or physical abuse? You
Well,
know,
I thought about this a lot, and I go through the panel one wounds, which are physical abuse and emotional abuse, and neglect, and verbal abuse, and then smothering, control, sexual abuse, and then what I call the narcissistic abuse, which I define as a system gone wrong, where the
mhm,
parents lack empathy. They
yeah,
lack empathy, and they put their own needs and manipulations and controls and agendas before their own children. And
yes,
that's why this parent alienation fits right in with some of this way of seeing narcissism, because if a parent were really interested in the well-being of their children, then they would at least try to support their children in loving the other parent. Okay.
Exactly. And what I found is that I tried co-parenting for too long and realized that parallel parenting, well, barely even works in this scenario, but because I have such a smear campaign from my father to her or best friends. I have a brother who's a doctor. I hate to say it. I don't want to go into details about these things,
Oh,
but
that's fine. I
um,
want the audience to understand that this is a multi-generational thing,
yes,
and people end up, people who are more on the people pleaser end, and
yeah,
I'll include a little bit about that in myself.
right,
Although I've worked really hard on myself so that I don't bleed out, because the caretakers, the givers, the healers, the people
yeah,
that are interested in helping other people, typically, right? Typically, they give too much and then they end up hurting
burnt out,
themselves. So,
burnt out.
right? Is
Yeah,
that your case?
yeah. Well, no, for me, I know I actually took a retreat. I took a hiatus from all of it,
Mhm.
and literally, they tried doing I've done the gray rock method for years. I've done the no contact method for years. But however, with children, it's difficult. So
With
the
who? With who did you do Gray Rock and no contact?
no contact with basically all of them. I mean, I went no contact. They try before they do their little officially blocked, temporarily blocked thing. The red flags are once I start feeling them, it's like it's like a piranha, not a piranha bite, but like a shark, you know, fin comes up.
So did you try Gray Rock with your ex-wife and no
Oh
contact?
yeah,
Oh yeah, yes,
yeah.
yes.
Then it just because the children go.
Mhm.
Uh, she even moved on, to fiance, whatever. And the smallest thing that I asked for was to just know who this gentleman is, where my children stay, that it's safe.
Uh-huh. You mean where, because
Yeah,
she's
that
dating?
he, she lied. I mean, they lie. So, and like, I just look at the grammar. I think it's humorous when they reply to you text. Uh,
So I want to ask you, how are the children doing? And I'm gonna read off the effects of this parent alienation syndrome in terms of symptoms. So I'm gonna read it off and then just jump in, uh, and um, and let me know if this applies to your children. It's very sad. This is actually an article from Psych Law. And Claywar and Rivlin, 1991, reported these harmful effects. And these harmful effects include loneliness, conflicts with parents, depression, sleep problems, substance abuse, speech problems, sexual promiscuity. Does any of that apply to your children?
well, like at one point in my child, I was working in psych as well. I worked in California, I got to come to California. I love it there. When I worked there, I got to know some metaphysical things, and whatnot. And, it just, utilizing some of those techniques was like, you know, as long as I stayed calm. Uh,
Okay, but back up for a minute, because I want to kind of t- go into the direction of
yeah.
the effects of this on the children. So do your
Yeah, yeah. Well, my children I was there for 0 to 5 years old, and from, mental health state, I think 0 to 5 is their like big learning curve, from Erickson, I think. And I believe that I instilled, the good qualities, the kind qualities. I don't think I'm 110% an empath, but I think I'm 70%.
No, I know that you have done everything to be a good parent, and I want the audience to understand the impact on the children. So,
Yeah.
so do they feel the depression? Are they having sleep problems?
Well, I don't know if this is a thing. I mean, I've heard this as a rumor that, with the brainwashing that the narcissist can do.
Yes.
I just didn't know. Like my son priorly had OCD. My
Got
ex,
OCD. Okay,
um,
so OCD is a symptom of anxiety.
you're
It's
right.
the anxiety. And so again, when children feel out of control, they try to control their environment. And I spoke about OCD last week. I brought up a case of a young lady that felt very unsafe in her childhood. And so she ritualized everything. And that's what, um, on the one hand, it gave her a semblance of control. On the other hand, it locked her in psychological prison. So I want to read off to you in the audience. The long list of symptoms that parent alienation has on children, because remember, they're being torn apart. They
Yeah.
want to love mom, they want to love dad, but dad and mom don't love each other. And the audience, I encourage you to watch my YouTube video called The ABCs of Resentment. And briefly, it goes something like this. Let's say, Adam, you're A, correct? And your ex-wife is B, and then your children are C. And let's say, are you still there?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a call in?
No, no, just the computer thing was
Okay.
yeah.
All right. So,
Well, wait, hold on. Let me see. Hold on.
okay. So stay with me here. So there's an A, which is represented, let's say, by you, and then a B, which is represented by your ex, and then the C are the children. And in an ideal world, A, B, and C are a unit, a family unit, a system, hopefully gone right. And within that, everybody gets along more or less. Nothing is perfect with each other. However, what happens when A and B split up? So now A and B don't like each other, but the children are monkey in the middle, right? And this is that horrible spot that they're in. So they want to like A, they want to like B in most cases, or at least some cases, or in all cases, children do want to find a way that they can still idealize their parents and stay attached to their parents. And so now they're in the middle and they feel that if they love daddy, mommy's going to get really angry. And if they love mommy, daddy's going to get really angry. And if they show, if daddy, let's say mommy and the children don't have a very good bond, and mommy threatens the children and says, look, if you go to daddy's house, I'm not going to talk to you ever again because you're disloyal to mommy. I mean, it can get really ugly and very, very, very on the other side of a huge disconnect for everybody. And then what are the children to do? So they're torn up inside. Is this your case?
Yeah, well, basically what happened, in it happens to men. I don't know in what statistic versus women, but we get a lot of guys. Like for me, I was taught not to feel, you
Okay.
know, but I do.
Yeah.
I feel probably more because I don't express them. So I talked myself into going to therapy. And even though I'm in the medical profession, I'm great at what I do, but I'm a bad patient sometimes.
Yeah.
So as far as I started off, when I wanted out of this relationship, she she took revenge. I took her to Colorado with the children,
Mhm.
and that was a mistake in itself because my energy told me it wasn't good. And
And
when
what form of revenge? did she take?
Well, she took a full setup from in the room. She stayed in the room while I took the kids to breakfast, and I gave the valet a good tip, you know, because he did a great job. And you know, I did everything that I could. Just I tried to be nice to everyone, and you know, and I go upstairs and I notice she's typing away nonstop, and she's typing a smear campaign to all of my. You want to answer this, or should I answer this?
Okay, so we're gonna hang on a minute. I
Okay.
have a call in, so
Okay.
I'm gonna take the call. So before she took
You
revenge,
know, and
continue
I
that. So
go upstairs and I notice she's
hold on,
typing
Adam.
away
Adam, can you hear me?
nonstop, and she's typing a smear campaign to all of my.
Hello?
Okay, hi, Adam. Why don't Tony? How about this? Why don't you? So Adam, why don't you? Okay, why don't we do this?
Stephanie, could you turn down your audio? You're in the background.
I don't know.
There we go.
Here's this. Why don't you mute Adam, and then I'll talk to the audience and we'll bring him back.
You're
okay?
good to go.
Okay, so hi. Thank you so much for calling in.
Hi there.
Hi. And give me a name to call you, please.
My name is Stephanie.
Thank you so much for calling in. And how do you relate to the topic?
So I'm actually going through a high conflict divorce right now, and my hopefully soon to be ex-husband was attempting to alienate our only child against me.
How old is the child?
He just turned 13.
I'm very sorry. And so how is your son doing in all of this?
She's a girl, and
your daughter? Yeah.
Yes, this is my daughter. So at first, she was buying it. His method of trying to alienate her was to play the victim, trying to paint me as this tyrannical, career-driven female who ordered him around and was always yelling at him and being mean to him. And because he didn't yell a lot. He definitely could, but a lot of his verbal abuse was out of her earshot. So she didn't hear a lot of what was going on, you know, before I occasionally became dysregulated. So he was able to manipulate her for a while and tried to convince her that I was this terrible person. And he's very narcissistic. So, of course, his behavior deteriorated towards her. He was treating her pretty terribly before we separated. And then once we separated, he put the mask back on and switched back to trying to be the best dad ever. But that didn't last. And as his behavior deteriorated, she started to see what was going on. He started treating her the way that he had been treating me. And at this point, we're very close now. She's definitely very attached to me. And it's very difficult because his behavior towards her is continued to be just really mean. He was trying to get primary custody of her, and I fought it very, very hard because I knew that if he was trying to move her away too. And I knew that if he had her, I knew what I was getting from him, and I could see and observe what he was giving to her when we were still together. And I knew that if he got her alone, that he was going to aim everything that he had been giving her, plus everything he had been giving me, all at her. I wasn't there to buffer her and protect her against him anymore.
He was
And
going to project. He was going to project all over her what he was projecting on you. Yes.
yes, absolutely. It was all going to come down, and she was going to be in the line of fire of everything. And I wasn't wrong. I managed to successfully fight him moving away, but he has definitely been aiming all of his negative stuff towards her. And, I stood my ground. I'd already started learning Marshall Rosenberg's nonviolent communication before the separation, and I continued learning that afterwards. And I use that language of empathy and understanding to communicate with her when, she was in these aggressive, angry states, and aiming her anger and aggression towards me and repeating what he had been telling her. And it works.
It did work. Okay, I just want to say that this is not uncommon, that the child will take their aggression out on the safer parent, because when the bond is weak with the other parent, toxic and weak with the other parent, and there's a threat by the other parent that they won't in some form love the child if they such and such and so, then they have to walk on eggshells and be very careful how they treat that parent. So when they build up the anger and the sadness and all of that, that's going to spill over on the safer parent most of the time. So I just want you to be aware of that. Okay.
Definitely. I was listening to a video a couple of weeks ago about polyvagal theory and looking at trauma in terms of polyvagal theory. And that theory states that when the child is in the presence of the narcissistic parent, that they're in this sort of dorsal nervous system state where they're either in a freeze response or a fawn response.
Yeah.
And then
when trauma, the freeze and the fawn, usually when you're children, because child is a hostage situation, so you usually can't fight, right? What are you going to do? Hit your parent? I guess some children try to do that, but then they get in big trouble. They can't flee because where are they going to go? To the streets? So I guess the other autonomic, the reactions to the wound, I call it, the amygdala, the limbic system, does the freeze and the fawn. So are you watching your child go into fawn mode?
Well, when she's with him, she definitely goes into freeze or fawn mode. And then when she's with me, and this is another thing that polyvagal theory says, that when they're with the safe parent, they then go into fight or flight, because that parent nervous system is apparently another level up. Okay. And once they can get out of fight or flight mode, then they can get into more of that connected, loving, I'm safe, I'm okay, I'm accepted, and things are much more positive.
Thank goodness for your daughter that you're learning and you're trying to understand this so that you could be a better parent. I'm going to go ahead and started listing all of the things. Adam, I'll bring you back in are you
sure,
there?
Sure. Yeah, I'm here, Doctor. I'm listening to all the comments.
Okay. I'm just gonna mute you for a moment so that I can finish the conversation here and then bring you back on and psychoeducate a little bit more. So okay, so here are some of the symptoms: loneliness, conflict with parents, depression, sleep problems, substance abuse, speech problems, sexual promiscuity. Why sexual promiscuity? Because they probably need to get out of the house and connect with other people. Poor body image, poor eating habits, Adam, the cookies, right? Eating disorders, weight loss, weight gain, disheveled living space. This is a long list. I'll finish it off. Poor executive functioning, the disorganization, diminished activity, psychosomatic distortions, isolation, use of technology, cell phones, lack of friends. I'm almost done, but you can see how damaging this is. Sibling conflict. Children attack the other sibling in the family. Heightened fantasies, diminished attention, social identity problems, regressive behaviors, anxiety, conflicts with peers, school dysfunction, memory loss. So are you getting it? Are you getting that this kind of a treatment of children is just tearing them apart? So if you're a parent listening to this and you're in a high conflict divorce, most definitely keep that conflict as much as possible away from your children. I know it's very, very difficult, particularly when you're in a high conflict divorce and the other party is trying to instigate and alienate you and attack you. So anything else you wanted to say? Are you noticing that this is going on with your children?
Oh, definitely. The poor eating habits, technology, definitely she's having quite a few of those symptoms. It's tough, it's definitely it's really tough to see her going through that and see her relying on a lot of that stuff to cope. I'm hoping that.
Go ahead.
I said I'm hoping that I'll be able to find a therapist for her soon, and we can find some healthier ways to help her cope with it.
Are you in California?
Yes, I am.
Okay, feel free to reach out to the Psychological Healing Center. I have a really nice team of people. Okay, so and we'll teach.
All right, thank you.
For sure. Also, I just wanted to add that the court systems are not very psychologically savvy. Is that your experience? They just don't know these effects that I'm talking about. It's not like they update themselves on psychology and scapegoating and acting out behaviors and so on. Has that been your experience, that the court system is not very helpful to your daughter? And then I'll ask you, Adam, too, in a minute. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think that definitely family court system doesn't quite recognize as of yet the how damaging parents with narcissistic traits can be to children. They still definitely default to 50-50 custody, which is, I think, extremely harmful for children who have the parents that have those high narcissistic traits. So yeah, definitely I have not been impressed, nor have I been helped by it.
So, being that it is a system gone wrong, I hope that the systems that are available to us, which are psychological system, the court system, and so on, I hope that they spend a little bit more time aligning with the best interest of the child. And I know that we're asked to do psych evaluations here at the Psychological Healing Center, and sometimes those are used in court proceedings, but pretty 50-50 usually, unless there's a real particularly horrible circumstance and you've got proof of it. So one of the things that I wanted to add here is that if you are feeling alienated, okay, what do you do? So what do you do is you should collect details, witnesses, emails, texts, social media posts. The legal process may involve a psychological evaluation, which can help, a custody evaluation, family assessment, and reunification therapy, which is oftentimes needed and not always successful, because if you've got a parent who lacks real parenting skills and empathy, it's going to be hard for them to form a true bond with their child. So thank you so much for calling in. I really appreciate your comments. Was there another question or so that you had?
That's all I had for you tonight, Dr. Judy. Thank you for taking my call.
You're so welcome. I really appreciate your calling in. So Adam, are you still there? Adam?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so can you relate to all of what was just talked about?
Oh my God, I can't even begin. I mean, because I can't even label exactly, when I was asked at one time, who are you? Uh, I said I'm a spirit. That's all I am, having a human existence. And trying to go through all the different things that I've been taught. Um, Sometimes it comes to the point where if you set your boundaries and they don't respect them and they walk all over you, you have to be clear, right?
Right. How are you doing with that? How are you doing with your boundaries?
Well, I mean, we're talking since 2018, but I have a smear campaign that is extensive to the point where uh, I don't want to get into the details about, what she does, whatever, but let's just say in the same profession.
Well,
And
what's sad is that this is, you've heard me speak about narcissism and flying monkeys and
right,
triangulations and so on and so forth. So this is just another version of that where she doesn't want to have you connect with
right.
with the children. And so
And the funny thing is, Dr. Judy, is that the wordage that she uses, I've had to really just like for nursing, I had to dissect. It always came down to two answers that were one was better than the other. And when you're dealing with this type of con artist, they're setting you up. They're trying to bait you, and I'm sitting there like, this is not only you're changing the days, you're manipulating it. You told me that when you capitalize, that's yelling, and using exclamation points and silly things that just are just I mean, at this point in my life, it's tragic, but my children, being even as young as they are, their mom may said, I'm gonna make them call you. Then she said, I encourage them to call you. Then she says, you could call them. So having that circular conversation just gets you nowhere, and it can get you frustrated. So, what I did was I know my kids, and I knew just to wait, just to wait, just to wait, just to wait. And then I called, and my princess got on the phone, made my whole week. My son got on the phone, made my whole week, because what I found in my career is when you have something to look forward to, keeps you going.
how, Adam, how often do you see or talk to your children?
Well, that's where I'm at now. It's really gotten bad because, my ex-wife, became, I don't know how deep, but 24/7 with my father from the beginning. And then before my divorce, got information from my brother. I was even homeless for a period of time.
So how often are they seeing you now?
Months.
Once a month?
No, not even. I don't get it. My son's birthday actually is April 3rd. So she's changed it 5 times when I tried asking direct questions. Otherwise, I do not speak to her.
So this is horrible. It keeps you in a heightened state of waiting, and we know what it feels like to just wait and wait.
Yeah, I think
Stressful. Adam, I was thinking about the martial arts because I used to do martial arts also.
Oh yeah, I remember you were saying, yeah.
Trying to get back into it, which
Yeah,
is
that's
hard.
awesome.
Should
That's
never
awesome.
have let it go, but I'll struggle somehow to get back into it. But you've got to treat the amygdala, which is that emotional part of the limbic system. You probably know more about it than I do.
No, actually, no. I was when I read your math program, I was like, it's complex, but it's very, like almost like the code when you break a code. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, I'm glad I'm simplifying it because I want everyone to understand this. I want
Right.
children to understand it. And by the way,
Yeah.
the Mind Map video series, which is still available to everybody, it's a complete breakdown of the Mind Map process, and you can order it. It's a download, and in it is also a section where my grandson Alexander breaks down the mind map from a child's point of view. So it's been tested on children and it's
Yeah.
intuitive. And
Yeah.
so the main thing is these are very complex conversations, and we've got to understand them from the point of childhood wounds and reactions. So now we can treat those reactions with things like yoga and
Right.
martial arts and
Right. And
boxing.
that saved me apart. I did 30 years in medical,
Mhm.
38 years in martial arts. Um,
Wonderful.
and yeah, no, I mean it honestly, I had COVID. I was at 40% oxygen. I'm
Mm.
a great nurse, but I'm a horrible patient, you know. And I went to like an MD now finally, and they said I was on 40% oxygen. And the doctor looked at me and goes, "What would you do?" And I said, "Go to the hospital." So I realized that, part of that too, is my hard head, or is my stuff that took me a long time to build up self-esteem,
Yeah.
that I could stand up to, this and say, okay, I accept how you feel, and just let them figure it out. They don't have much of a comeback.
Well, look, the good news. I mean, I know you've been very patient and you've been sick and you're trying to manage your anxiety and your depression and whatever else you've got going on. So look, if the kids are feeling lonely and depressed and having
Right.
problems, I'm sure you're having those symptoms
No,
too.
I was feeling really depressed about it because prior to this, I don't know if I shared with you that I went through a dark night of the soul during my um, divorce. I was just broken. My attorney stole my money,
Mm,
and I just had to sign away. And she was doing it to protect the money. That's all she cared about, is the money. The children were pawns.
mhm.
The children, she just wanted to hurt me. And to this day, she still tries. And, my dad hides officially blocked, and some of the other smear campaign people.
Wait, back up. So your dad and her are in alliance?
Well, let's put it this way, Dr. Judy. When in 2018, when I went in without representation, uh, he took her to Spain afterwards.
Okay.
So I don't know what to make it
Very,
of.
I mean,
Comes into town all the time and never even calls me, but spends time with me.
yeah, devastating. So, one of the things that I'm thinking of doing more of is I started a webinar last night.
Mm,
It's just a great experience for everyone and myself. A webinar on recovering from narcissistic abuse, and it's the complete mind map system with
yeah,
application toward recovering specifically from narcissistic abuse. I'm doing it 3 Wednesdays in a row. I'm going to do another one if you're interested or anybody's interested, please join in. I think where I'm also going with this, other than to let everybody know that these webinars are going to be happening hopefully on a regular basis, is that when we have group support, it takes some of the pain away when you can hear other parents going through it, because who can know this better than other parents going through it? Nobody knows this
and nobody
experience.
says, Dr. Judy. Nobody wants. They're afraid to tell you.
Yeah,
They're afraid, and they, because they're afraid of repercussions. So I don't know if they consciously joined the smear campaign or not.
but I'm talking about other parents. So
Yeah,
support groups. I think there are groups for parent alienation syndrome. I want you to do your best to seek this out for yourself so you don't feel so alone, and that you have somebody to share it with. Because one of the problems is that when things are chronic and you keep talking about it with your friends or coworkers or what have you, you run the risk of burning them out, right? And after a while, they just can't hear it anymore. And you're still in pain. And that's why you need to channel it into the form of some professional help or free group help or anything that you can get your hands on to create support system for yourself, because there's just a lot to carry here. And the good news is the children will grow up, okay? And hopefully they will be able to have enlightened witnesses along the way and eventually see truth. And,
Dr. Judy, may I ask you a quick question? Because
sure.
I really don't, I try to educate myself as best as possible, but this is one insidious thing, that and when they get to the point of using the children, the one thing that I had, I could care less about money. I could care less about anything else. But when you start taking the children, now this is my line, now you're not letting me see them. You're not letting me talk to them when you're on I call on the phone. She texts me that I encourage them, I force them. Uh, and you know what my kids do? They
Mhm.
call themselves. And when she's not around and
Okay. Well,
tell me the truth. I mean,
I-
not exactly, but I know I can always sense the fear is different when they're around her
mhm.
versus when, for example, I used to have other people with me.
And they don't have, you don't have opportunity for reunification therapy. I'm really surprised that they
Well,
don't.
I went to, many therapists to get, I wanted to see what their thoughts were, and they all concur. They all concur that it's emotional abuse, uh, along with parental alienation, which in turn is emotional abuse, which I'm sorry to say, the physical damages that come to victims and mental damages, the longer they stay, and the only reason I stuck around was for the kids.
Well, you see, if they're volunteering to call you, they're still connected to you, but what you're going to get out of them is maybe the walking on eggshells because they
Yeah,
have that ABC of resentment. They have to be loyal to the mother and show their
you're not kidding.
loyalty
You're
by
not kidding.
some level against you. So it's really, really a mess. And I
But
hope.
it's so ridiculous, Dr. Judy, that I'm talking to my child, I get through, and she's talking to me all about a cartoon. And she goes, Daddy, I don't want to spoil it like we watched Frozen a trillion times. And I'm like, well, that's about right. I love the movie. And I just look at the yard where we used to play
Mhm.
and everything. And they're such good liars. I heard they could even be polygraphs because they believe what they're saying so much, these people. Why is it okay? You know?
Yeah, yeah. When you say it enough times, you wrap your head around it so hard that it becomes reality. And so I can't tell you how much I encourage you to be around other people who are going through the same thing,
Yeah. you
right?
know, but I really, like when we talked last time, I thought about going to the next step of the legal. However, at that time, I really felt that even the legal doesn't see it sometimes. You know,
I'm sorry, I missed
even
that.
sometimes legal system over doesn't see it. Because these people are so believable, their egos are so fragile that I already know my dad's problems. He was left into the tenement in the Bronx and he felt abandoned.
So look again, multi-generational damage and it just keeps revisiting. So the best that everyone can do if you're suffering from parent alienation syndrome is
Yeah,
do the best that you can to be the best that you can because you're the role model and I don't care if it's not if you're not able to do. I mean, of course I do care, but what I'm saying you have to preserve yourself. So when they do access you, you're in good shape, and
Right.
you're
Yeah.
mentally intact, and you're not falling apart with depression and anxiety and
But
all the.
yeah, you know how long the COVID thing was when everyone was locked in and everything, and
Yeah.
I was grateful that I was divorced at that time. To be
Oh,
honest, that was one great thing of going no contact. But
yeah.
sometimes I've slipped up and said things that I try my hardest not to. I try my hard, but when it's so ridiculous that you're repeating the texting and pasting the same thing over and over and over again,
Yeah.
and and calling you names and trying to get me upset, and despite the fact I know my kids love me and I know they're going to learn to come back.
So here's what I want to. We're gonna have to stop in a minute. I see the time is out, but what I want to conclude with for you and everybody else is, don't make it your whole life, because then you're going to feel like you're just in torture land.
Right.
So have a life. And if you're dating, good. If you're not dating, find people, find friends, uh, take vacations, whatever you can, even if they're small getaways. But just please don't make it your entire life. You're going to drive yourselves crazy. So, Adam, I know we will be in touch. Okay.
I look forward to always.
And thank you for suggesting the title. I think it's very pertinent, and I hope that the
Yeah.
audience can relate to this. And so I just want to make a couple of announcements before we end. So
Okay. It was a
thank
pleasure. Thank
you.
you for having me on the show.
Of course, my pleasure. So, audience, again, I want to remind you that we offer free consultations at the Psychological Healing Center. We do Zoom. We have a wonderful staff of people who are specialists in recovery from narcissistic abuse, and they know my mind map because I teach it to them. I'm going to have these webinars, hopefully on a regular basis. I have them split into three parts, 3.5 hours, usually Wednesday from 4 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 Wednesdays in a row. The first Wednesday we go through panels 1, 2, 3. Then we take a week break, and then we go through panel 4, 5, 6, and then a week break. And 7, 8, 9, you get the video with it, obviously the PDF and the journal for recovering from narcissistic abuse. It's intensive, and it's a group, obviously, webinar, and you can access the webinar easily. And so if you're interested in the next one, please do call. And if you want individual therapy, of course, call in. And I have Facebook and Instagram. So look me up. There it is with the seminar, the webinar. Thank you. And find me on Facebook. And of course, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. And pay it forward with the PDF when you get your free copy of the PDF, Be the Cause Healing Human Disconnect. Feel free to pay it forward to your friends. You're very, very welcome, Adam. And my pleasure. So I'll see everyone next week. And thank you so much for joining in. Good night, everyone. And if you've enjoyed my show, please subscribe to my channel. If you need help, please call the number below.
Are we off?
All right. All right. How was that?